Good evening and welcome to Gator's Garage, the home of all things historical gaming in and around the great city of Savannah, Georgia. It's Thursday, so of course that means it's Mike and Randy, and we're coming to you this week with more bolt action news out of Savannah and even some discussion of a bit of the wider hobby as well. So, Randy played in our tournament this last weekend, didn't quite place in the top three, but put in a good showing. Certainly had just a fantastic army and played on just fantastic tables. So we're gonna walk through his army with him and walk through the tables, and then talk a bit about kind of where we see some of the things going in the new tournament season. So there's Randy's army, always well painted, well based, well represented. No, he did not have both a Firefly and a Comet. He just was considering whether which one he wanted to run. So, Randy, tell us about your army, man.
Yeah, I would have loved to put both of them on the table, but
Yeah.
yeah. So the Firefly was something I've been kicking around this past week, um, just due to points. It's about 42 points cheaper, I think. Maybe 43. I think it's 43 cheaper than the Comet. The biggest difference is it doesn't have the frontal armor, the reinforced frontal armor. So it's 9. And I guess the other difference too is it doesn't have a hull MMG. Why, I don't know, but it doesn't have one. So
The Firefly doesn't have a whole MMG?
no. And believe it or not, that really came in handy when you're shooting at something. Like I can shoot at a vehicle, and then I can also drop a pin on a squad or something while I'm at it.
Right.
So,
Right.
Wow. Or if you're shooting at a squad, it can be even better because, if I hit them with that 3-inch HE and kills most of them off, and there's a couple of survivors, well, the hull MG is going to clean them up.
Right. Just without me pulling my book up, does the Firefly have an HE shell or no?
Yeah, it's basically the same gun. And in all respects, it's almost the same tank, just no reinforced front armor.
Got it. They both have that. What's that? The 17 pounder, right?
Yeah.
In real life, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
call it, I
And
think
the
it's a
Brits,
77 millimeter gun.
like, what is it? 77? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is
Um, yeah, it's badass. It really is. Every time I hit a vehicle, just about every time, I had a double penetration, and
yeah.
that just knocks them out.
What is that running? It's a heavy anti-tank gun.
Yeah, +7, and with the range, you're guaranteed that you're going to have full penetration. You're not going to lose anything, unless you're shooting across the board. Then you might drop a pin.
Yeah, that thing's a Panther killer, man. I mean,
It
Germans
is.
can bring out their heavy
Well,
tanks, and
yeah,
that thing will make them say uncle. So will the Firefly, for that matter.
yeah,
And I know I never worry about. I don't worry much about the big cats if I've got Fireflies on the table because I can. You can't go toe to toe with the big cats. They'll open you up like a tin can, especially the Sherman. But if you get first crack, they're in trouble. And
yeah,
we're starting to see. We talked about. I know me and Bo talked about this, and so did you and I. Um, we saw some really interesting big tanks on the table. Literally a big tank, that darn German self-propelled rocket howitzer. That thing was crazy.
Oh wow, Storm Tiger.
Yes,
Uh,
Lordy. He got
I wish
he
I could have played him.
got fun.
I just love opening up German armor.
And the guy even said, he said, I just did it because I could. And this is, gosh, Randy, one of the things I love about our group. It seems just about everybody that comes. I mean, you guys will tweak your list, but you're going to have fun. You're going to try
Yeah,
something different, like you with your 2 twin machine gun tanks. It was like, hey, let's try something different. And then of course somebody had a Panther, and that Panther was quite a presence actually. And one of the things we talked about in the preview is heavy tanks and medium tanks are starting to come back into their own. So that's going to
yeah,
be very interesting. I just added a Mark III and a Mark IV to my collection. So you can expect to see them at least base coated. And I may show up with some kind of major German tank presence at one of these games. I've now got 2 Stugs. I've got a Mark IV G and a Mark III and a Mark II.
yeah.
So I can really mix it up. and then a couple of armored cars. I mean, I can go crazy. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
big tanks
to
are
tell you,
coming in.
to tell you what that 17-pounder can do, I played last year. I think it might have been Recon.
Yeah,
They had a Tank Wars game,
right.
and so I brought German. I brought a Tiger 2 and a whole bunch of other stuff. And my opponent, his first game, he had a Firefly, and first turn of the game, I had to put my Tiger out first, and then he came right on with the Firefly and popped a shot right through the front armor and killed it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
11 armor
Yeah.
tank. He knocked it right out.
Yep. Yeah. The Germans rightly feared the Firefly tank. It was
Yeah.
a solid, mechanically reliable platform.
Yeah.
And once especially, and we didn't use them, but the Brits did. And by the end of the war, you're seeing 40% of their tanks were Fireflies. And given the levels of production they had too, there wasn't much the Germans could do to deal with that at all. So very good choice. Again, you went with the Comet, same gun, better armor, a few more points, but hey, pretty nice. We'll
So
go through this in detail. And I got to tell you, the twin gun Vickers tanks apparently a very rare deployment. Had a devil of a time. I found a picture. You'll see it. But people did a lot of other things with them too. I saw where the Finns took one and put a 20 millimeter gun on it. So the platform got used by a lot of different countries. I want to say that even the Poles had some
yeah,
Vickers tanks
they did.
um,
Yep,
before they
absolutely.
got overran by the Jerrys. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
The
Here we
Yeah,
go.
I think
Go
the
ahead. Yes,
Chinese
sir.
might have used them. I think the Chinese might have even used those things.
Oh, the Chinese used everything. They had gear from everybody. There's pictures of Kuomintang troops wearing German coal scuttle helmets and Manning 88s. I mean, it's
Whatever they could
crazy.
grab.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. If you ever want to,
Yeah.
and I don't know that anybody's done a book of it. I'd be kind of a cool one for Warlord to do, but the fighting between Japan and China, and then in the post-war years, but especially between Japan and China, you want to talk about a goulash, because the
Mm.
Chinese had access to a bunch of different allied equipment, both Russian and American, Russian and heavily Russian and British, but even once we got involved, some American equipment too. So doing some of the fighting in the what's called the CBI, the China Burma India Theater, nobody's really developed that a lot. And from a gaming standpoint, you'd have a good variety of troops: Indian, Sikhs, Indian Independence Army that fought for the Japanese. I think the Thai even fought with the Japanese against the Allies. Then you got the Dutch, you've got the Chinese. So yeah, Far East is like wide open for modeling. And quite honestly, even if Warlord didn't do anything official, it wouldn't be hard at all to model a Far Eastern campaign using bolt action. So yeah, there you go. Love it.
Now the Comet, to tell
Yep.
you how good that tank really is, it was in service in the 60s. They were still using that tank a good long while after the war. Other countries were picking them up and using them. And until really modern armor, it was one of the best tanks that you could get.
I think they went the Comet, and then their next mark was the Chieftain,
Yeah.
which may have been the first one to have Cobham armor. And then the next one after that, of course, was the Challenger series. I think I've got that right. I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comments.
They
By
had
the way, folks, if you
the,
haven't yet, click
the Challenger
like
they had in
and
the war.
subscribe. What's that?
Oh, they had the Challenger in World War II. I'm pretty sure
No,
because I remember
I don't
seeing it in
think
the.
so.
Yeah, because I think I can take one in the British.
Really?
Yeah,
Then it would
I'll
have
have
been the
to
Challenger and then the Chieftain then. But the Comet, um, and we'll hey, be something we'll check out. And we can give folks an answer. But I thought that Comet was like the last stage of British tank development in World War II. The Challenger came in the post-war period.
Yeah.
But hey, the Challenger, huh? I don't know because I thought it was the chieftain. Well, that'll be something for us to have to look up. I don't have my second monitor up, or I'd give it a quick look see. But hey, we're not perfect, but we try and keep up as best we can. But for this army, you had the Comet, and
Yeah.
again, one of those really good tanks. The ever faithful British Rifle Platoon.
Yeah.
Tommy Atkins at his best. Actually, these are Tommy Atkins, British, good old fashioned British infantry, paratroops in this case.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, the officers, they did what you'd expect them to do. They can hold objectives, morale bonus, some more. I think I have like 4 total officers in this list. So
Okay.
those bonuses really help cover the battlefield. Um, Unfortunately, in game 2, I was struggling to try to get on objectives, so I was throwing officers into the meat grinder trying to take an objective, and then hope to get a piece of armor up on top of it to keep it after that. But I ended up losing more officers than I've ever lost in game 2.
Nothing like leading from the front, right? Well, they're inexperienced, so they're easier to hit.
Yeah.
And that's probably the downside of taking inexperienced. And I know a lot of people do it. I can't do it.
Well, typically
They
you
got to
just
be
you don't
veteran.
want them out there. You want to protect them, but sometimes
Right.
you have to sacrifice them. Try to earn that medal of honor,
That's how those lieutenants get those medals of honor. I hear you, man.
So
Company commander.
I don't think I lost a paratroop squad. Maybe I really don't. I don't think I lost a paratroop squad the whole tournament. They're
That's
just
good.
stubborn. They'll go down to one man, and they just. Matter of fact, the first game, they sat on 3 objectives and they were just there. They didn't get them off of the objectives.
We ain't moving, guys.
That was the game right there. I only needed to capture 3, and yeah.
And you got the secondary on that one too, I think.
Yeah, and that's probably one thing that cost me. I think I ended up tying for 3rd, and I was 2-1 for the tournament, but I could have captured the secondary in game 2, the one I lost, had I not sacrificed all my officers in that one, because the secondary was killing the most officers. So I kind of gave him that secondary, trying to get the primary.
Sure. Wow. Yeah. Good point. And I'll be honest, I probably want to continue doing those secondary objectives. I think they give an opportunity for a player to salvage something out of a scenario if they're losing.
Yeah, it makes you think.
But it also, yep. I don't think we had any ties in scenarios. And I attribute some of that to having that secondary objective that allowed in many cases a good player to escalate, and get a good solid. I'd have to go back and look exactly at the scores, but yeah, that seemed to really keep the number of ties down. And I know that's another one of those things that we try and mitigate as tournament people is try not to have too many ties or short games. So that's really good. So company commander, you took him. Did he get some good use out of him during your games?
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing how you just can't fail an order test with him around. If he's within 12 inches, you're going to pass it. Even my inexperienced light mortars, if they're within range of the company commander, they just one. I can have only one guy left. He can have a bunch of pins, and he's still going to fire.
That's, man, as I talk to people and as I'm learning this new version 3, your officers have become such an important component of what's going on in your platoon. And honestly, at 1250, you're playing with a short company.
Yeah, it should be too, because if you think about it, Lieutenant Winters, those guys are huddled down in the ditches and they don't go anywhere unless he gets out there and starts pushing them forward. It takes an officer like that to get the guys motivated. and that's what they're
Sure.
doing. They're motivating these guys to
Right.
move.
Who was it? Was it Omar Bradley that landed on the beach and said the only two types of people are staying here: the dead and the dying? And I mean, it was right there in the midst of the stuff and said, "Let's
Yeah.
move."
Yeah.
I think it was Bradley. I could be wrong on D-Day. So
Yeah.
the officers should the officers in the new game make so much more of a difference than they did in the old game, and I like that. You really
Well,
are using
yeah.
every part of your force.
And I'll tell you what it does too. So these guys, the soldiers, they see a man that doesn't have to be there. He can lead from the back, but he's not.
Right.
He's out there taking bullets with the rest of the guys, and it motivates these guys to get going. It's like,
Yeah.
if he's going to risk his life when he don't have to, I'm getting up and moving.
Right. Fantastic. Good. How'd your forward observers do for you?
I'm a little ashamed to say that they were just devastating. Every game, but particularly the third game, the poor guy. I killed 10 units in 2 rounds with the observers because he was clumped up and there was splash hits. Every unit that got hit splashed 2 more units, and then that unit got hit, and then the splash went back the other way. So it was just, it was bad.
Had he not played against British before, maybe?
Maybe not, but the biggest thing was the scenario called for trying to not capture, but control the buildings. And
Right.
since the fight, that's where you had to go. The bombardments, he was clumped up trying to catch buildings, and he caught the howitzers, indirect howitzer fire.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So wow, it's interesting how different lists will fare in the different scenarios and in the different types of terrain. And it's one of the reasons we try and kind of it's why every board's a little different.
Yeah.
You might be back-footed this game, but then again, you don't always get to put your perfect guys in their perfect situation. So that's pretty cool. Rounded out the first platoon, as we all do, and anti-tank rifle, a couple of those pesky light mortars.
So the anti-tank rifles overall didn't do a lot. They were almost more of a sniper.
Okay. Oh no.
Yeah, when you shoot at an officer, if you hit him, you're killing him. He's he's going to go away. Especially an experienced officer, yeah.
Right.
Well, in the 48-inch range too. I mean, you can hit him from all the way across the board.
Yes.
I think I shot at a Piat team with one and took a guy out of the Piat team.
Right.
Yeah.
And that forces a test, and if they fail, they disappear because they're taking 50% casualties. So, yeah. Anti-tank rifles were okay in V2. With that 48-inch range, I think everybody takes them. And it's just cost benefit on those is so excellent. They're good against light armor. They're good for punching people out of stone buildings.
Yeah. And also from version 2, I think that even against infantry, you lost penetration at half range.
Right.
But in version 3, you don't lose penetration against soft skins or infantry. Boy. So you get that full +2 all the way out to 48 inches.
Wow. That's huge. That's huge. Something else you need to kill as soon as you see it. Randy, you have so much stuff that when I play you, I just have to kill it because it's just dangerous. Your FO's got to go. Otherwise, I'm going to FAFO, Your ATR team's got to go. And man, if I get any chance of hammering those mortars, they're dog meat because they're just
they did great.
So darn lucky with those things.
I killed so much stuff with these mortars. I don't understand. Everybody says, they're terrible. I can't get them to do anything. I'm like, I don't have a problem with them. I got to find some wood, knock on some wood. But yeah. So I'm going to do a tutorial on how I play my mortars here coming up.
Well, it's a great idea. And what's that channel again?
Bolt Action 1944.
I'll throw a link to that in the description below.
Yeah.
I've seen. I think I sat in on one of your either offense or defense tutorials. That looked pretty good. I saw the one you did about putting mortars together. I thought that was pretty good too.
Yeah,
And
I
and
did
then
a
enjoyed. Go ahead.
I did a recce tutorial too a while
Yeah,
back.
maybe that was it. Yeah, and that generated a fair amount of discussion. Well, it might work
Yeah.
here, it might not work there. And guys, go ahead and comment on our stuff. We don't mind
I
talking to
see
the
a lot
audience
of
here.
people bringing recce platoons, and
Sure.
they're winning with them.
Yes. Yeah.
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 I'm not going to rule out. I won't change one of these platoons to a recce because I'm trying to fiddle with points and possibly bringing a soft skin that's recce instead of an armored transport might be an option to make it work.
Or you throw a 5-man team in a Bren carrier. You know,
Yeah.
If it's got a light machine gun and the Bren carrier's got a light machine gun, you've got 2 light machine guns and 5 guys, and if they're all riflemen, well, now you're throwing the machine gun team's throwing down 8 dice, and then the car's throwing down 3. That's 11 dice between 2 units. That's nothing to sneeze at.
So there's even better 2 options. One is to put a 5-man submachine gun squad in it.
Okay.
Or a 5-man squad with a light machine gun. Instead of submachine guns, you just throw in a light machine gun. Matter of fact, if you want to get really strong with it, you could take the British have the option for the regular infantry to put 2 light machine guns in a squad. So you could bring a 5-man squad with 2 light machine guns, throw them in a Bren.
And I can tell you, I've done that on the German side, and it is darned effective. It's a small footprint, and it's a lot of dice. And been a while since I fielded that one. I think it was a Fallschirmjäger group I did that with, and yeah, it was darned effective. So, absolutely awesome. So, second platoon, another rifle platoon.
Yeah.
And more veterans. These are our friends, the Gurkhas.
Yeah. So, and everybody's been saying, "Oh, close combat's gone and bolt action." No, absolutely not. Every game, I got in a successful assault with these Gurkhas. As a matter of fact, so I've been putting them in my LVT, and I've been using it just as a free move for them. I don't, because my company commander rides in the LVT, and so I don't want to just push it up somewhere where it can get blown up. But I'll use it as a 9-inch advance, and then they get out. So typically I'll usually run them because I'm not going to assault or shoot in the first turn anyway with them, and then that way I can put them in a position like the first game. They got out, and all of them got behind a group of grass. It was a jungle, so it was jungle grass. Yeah. But one guy had his head peeking out, and so the guy had a Bren with 5 paratroopers in it. Or I think they were commandos. And so my Comet hit the Bren that they were in, and blew it up. So that game, it blew up the Humber and it blew up the Bren. And then these guys had to get out. They didn't take any casualties because they're veterans. So, but they got out, and then I shot at, what did I shoot at? I shot at something else to check my range. It might have been an officer. I think I fired an officer over there, and I knew that the Gurkhas were within 12 inches. So I was like, first dice the next turn. Here we go. And and I got blood curdling charge. So this is the key to the Gurkhas, is blood curdling charge, because you don't take any casualties going in. And even if they're in terrain and they swing first, it's okay, because I'm not going to lose any of my guys. They're going to swing with half, so they might kill 1 or 2. And then my tough players are going to be swinging with everything. So these were
the blood curdling charge keeps them from doing defensive fire?
Yep, exactly.
Wow.
So these commandos had rifles, and they had actually stepped into hard cover when they got out of the Bren.
Sure.
And so they swung first, but there's only 5 of them. So they only swung with 3, and he only killed 1 guy. And then my tough fighter Gurkhas, they killed, like 3 or 4 easily without re-rolling. And so that was over. And
they just kind of carved up everybody.
Yeah. And then I was hunting down an officer that was hiding behind a little radio tower. Matter of fact, he had to back up. He kind of backed up out of sight, so I couldn't see him for the next turn. Otherwise, I was going to assault him.
Wow.
Okay, because that was where the objective was, and it pushed him back off the objective. So I was able.
Nice. Good job. Another light mortar team as part of your second platoon, because why not?
Yeah. So if 2's good, bring another one. I've got 4 that I like to run, but I just couldn't fit. So one of the things I'm doing here, and we'll talk about this later, is a lot of tournaments now are going to 18 dice cap. So I'm even though you had a 20 dice cap, and I could have put a 4th light mortar, I wanted to cap myself at 18, so I'm kind of playing the same list everywhere.
That's how I do it anyway. I've got I think my list is like 15 dice, and I just run the same list. I tweak a little bit here and there. So and I haven't looked hard at it, but what's the next tournament? Recon, right? And so they've got 18 dice. Did Patrick go with 18?
Yep, he did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very good. That's interesting. I know we got some interesting feedback both ways. It was kind of funny. There was one guy who was like, "Oh man, you don't need to cap the dice off. I never take more than 2 hours to finish a game." Well, I found out why. He went 0-3.
his dice went away quickly.
Right. Well, he didn't have a lot of dice, and I mean, I know there's a balancing act, right? You don't necessarily have to have 20, but I think this guy had like 10, and that's just just like the rocket howitzer guy. I think he had 9, and it's just not enough. Your opponent's just going to beat the brake shoes off you on activations. Just the reality. Unless you make good use of your officers to really rabbit punch him back when it's your activation. But anyway, so yeah, 18, 20, I think seems to be good. I think Bo was recommending 26. I think that's too high. But Bo knows what he's doing too, and that's fine.
Well, the European bit is a little different too. So
yeah, that's true. Fair point. But there's your LVT.
Yeah.
2 medium machine guns.
I love it. Now I may have to pull it out of the list. It does a lot of things. It really does. I mean, it's just a Swiss Army knife. You got 2 MMGs, so and if you take the bow machine gun, now you're throwing out the same number of shots as a Stuart.
Right.
And it transports, well, in the British, it only transports 24. I don't know why, but that's still a lot of guys. I mean, you can push up a lot of your army in one move. Plus, it has flak. So, although I'm seeing the air observers going away. So, unless they make a change to them, flak's probably not going to be an issue. But this is what I put my company commander in. And it's so dang hard to hide. It just makes me nervous the whole game because they know the company commander's in it and they're going to shoot at it. And I did some practice games the week before our tournament, and I couldn't hide this thing. I mean, I tried to stick it behind a building, and a little piece of it would stick out, and it would shoot at it. And fortunately, it never got blown up. Matter of fact, I haven't lost it for a long time, but I'm thinking about maybe going with a Bren for my company commander, even though I'm kind of giving up my bubble a little bit. The Bren will be so much easier to hide.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Plus, it's got turn on the spot, so maneuverability is way better with the Bren.
That's right. Yeah. And again, it's still fully tracked, so it's going to go everywhere you need to go.
Yeah.
And it's not quite as fast as a half track, but it's not as big either.
No.
So I know I'm going to be bringing some more Bren carriers into the store too, because And this is one of the things about being a vendor is I use my own stuff, and I know I'm looking. You and I have talked. I'm looking real hard at adding 2 or 3 Brens to my Africa core,
Yeah.
because I can see how useful they'll be, even more so than half tracks. I can put my mortars in them. I can put my officer teams in them, and I do plan to fully flesh out. I did build a 1,250 point force based on my Africa core, and brought it with me Saturday. Actually, me and Brent were kind of trying to give it a test drive, but I just ended up being too busy. But yeah, so I can see where the Bren carrier is definitely going to be valuable, and I've definitely got some on order that I'm going to put into my British force. My Allied force overall is just a lot lighter than I'd like it to be, so that'll really help. And by the way, speaking of the mortars, when the new armies of the United States drop, they're also going to be dropping a mortar bazooka team combination for a pretty good price. So that'll be a good thing for people to add because bazookas are fun.
Yeah. So you'll see it's been experienced here.
I see that. And how do you get around that?
And so the biggest thing is it's not like a regular armored fighting vehicle where it has enough crew to fire all the guns. You have to have extra guys in it. So it's like, well, I can spend the points and make it regular, but why? Because I still have to put somebody in it. So I put my anti-tank rifle team, one of them, in this LVT to fire these 2 MGs. So basically the points I saved on keeping it inexperienced paid for the anti-tank rifle team. And then since I have the company commander in it, morale's not an issue either. So it's always going to move. It's always going to shoot. And then, yeah.
Oh,
now,
yeah,
so
that's something else. Go ahead.
One other trick is if you want to load this thing out, so you could make this LVT with an autocannon. You can put heavy machine guns on it. You can add the hull MG. Is to take an officer team, bump them up to regular, which costs you 29 points. 9 points to make the officer regular, and then another 20 for the extra guys. And then you put those 3 guys in, and they shoot all the guns.
This kind of reminds me of the combat cars from Hammer Slammers.
Yeah,
they're actually the same design. They've got automatic weapons at 3 points, and it's got a 3-man crew. I can see you pulling that off. By the way, I also noticed in the new Armies of America book, U.S. book, they've got dog teams, and it's a 2-man dog team for 30 points.
Yeah.
So that would be another option to throw in this thing. The dogs are just an add-on. So I forget what else they can do, but they can capture objectives. But that might be something else to again one more little tweak there.
Well, the good thing about the anti-tank rifle team is after they fire the guns, they can still jump out and shoot at something. Right. And then of course they got to get back in, but
right.
Yeah. So one of my thoughts on this is we've got
so what you're telling me is you can run that LVT up.
Mm-hmm.
You can have that ATR team as part of an advanced fire move on the part of the LVT.
Yep.
Fire the machine guns from the LVT.
Yeah.
And then when their order die comes up,
they can get out and shoot.
They can get out and shoot as well. That probably needs to be FAQ'd. I would argue from a technical standpoint that the guys could either man the guns or debust the vehicle. I'll be real surprised if that doesn't get FAQ'd.
Well, unfortunately, it's been like
that's how it works right now.
It's been that way since version 2, so I don't expect it to change. So technically, they don't need an order dice to fire the weapons.
Right.
And so what will happen is the next turn, the first thing you do is you run them back into the LVT. Now they won't get to fire every turn, but every other turn they're going to get a free deal out of it.
Wow.
So, yeah. So what I'm considering, because there's going to be a recon event at Recon, that's 750 points. You're not allowed to bring armored platoons or artillery platoons. It's only infantry.
Okay.
You put an autocannon on this and 3 MMGs or 2 HMGs and an MMG, and this is a tank. I got 2 of them. So I could bring 2 tanks in a game that doesn't allow tanks.
Absolutely. Well, that's like the stuff I like to do with half tracks. I love it. I may have to take a good hard look. You're
No,
about to
yeah.
get me sold on adding some LVTs to my Americans.
So
How
your
cool
half
is that?
tracks, you can add 2 MGs to your half tracks too. You can have a
Yeah.
heavy and 2 MGs on your half tracks.
Right.
Well, not
Right.
the Germans. The Germans can't do that. But,
They can throw one on the rear, which is okay.
yeah, but that's kind
Yeah.
of useless. Yeah, I want to turn around and shoot.
Turn around and run.
or,
Wow, that's
or
pretty cool. You're an evil man, Randy. Just saying. That's just evil. Two hand traps full of goodies. Well, they're not tanks.
it's not a tank; it's a transport.
Lordy, lordy, lordy. I love it. And that's another thing. When you're playing a tournament or you're playing a scenario, pay attention to the guidelines.
Yeah.
Don't get so caught up in what you're doing that you don't adjust for. So that's pretty cool. Okay. Here's your star.
Armor. Oh boy. Yep. So this is the Comet. I had play tested this bad boy for a good bit before this tournament, and let's see. I can't say enough good things about it. It's a shame it costs so much, but it's pretty much indestructible. I had it shot at several times. Once by a Panzer IV, and it just okay. It promptly blew it to smithereens in the next turn. As soon as I got my dice and shot at it, it just double pinned that Panzer IV.
Well, yeah. So when you made that shot, your base to hit was 3, and you were probably within less than half range. So it's a 3+ to hit.
Oh yeah.
You're not losing any penetration, and you're just going to punch. Let's see, super
Plus,
heavy anti-tank gun +7 pen. Yeah.
So he's 9, so I only need 12. So that's a roll of 5 for double pin.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. Yeah. Nasty. Wow. Well, good job. Good job.
Yeah.
And again, I'm glad to see people starting to take the big tanks. I know I had been kind of ruminating, the effect of a big tank would have, and it's really good for battlefield control. They've got range 84 inches, coax and forward-facing machine guns. So, one of my favorite tricks is like one of yours. Point the main gun and turret facing one direction to cover one axis. Point that medium machine gun covering another axis, and theoretically, you can pin down at least 2 units. So, really good deal.
So I played a guy that had a Avery and a Humber. That was his 2 pieces of armor, and they were on one side of the battlefield.
Sure.
And the Comet was on the other. So I didn't have any targets except a veteran squad of commandos. And I popped a 3-inch HE on them and obliterated them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think they had 1 or 2 guys left, but and they passed their order check because they're veterans. But I immediately shot them with something else, and they were gone. So
wow. Yeah, man.
And I think it was an 8-man squad. I killed 6 guys.
So big tanks, big tanks are back, guys. If you know how to use them, they can be a point sink. But they can definitely. I heard from people that had to face the Panther. I heard that the Panther was a real thing to deal with, and the Panther's pretty much like the Comet. It's a hard hitting medium or heavy tank, and definitely might be time for folks to kind of re-examine the American list that I built, or the British list that I built. Actually, the armor component was my Sherman, the Greyhound, and what else did I include in there? Oh yeah, and the Mark. What is that? I think it's the 4 that I run armored cars. So 2 armored cars and the Sherman. So not a bad little list there. But again, threw the Sherman in there because it's a good solid tank. And then there's these little gadflies, these 6-ton little tanks that
as
65 points.
As Worf would say, the globfly.
I like it. I like it.
These little bad boys, I'm telling you, this is the best bang for your buck. I mean, double MGs, they can split fire. Just I lost one only because I assaulted a pack 40 with it.
That's probably a bad idea.
I had to get rid of it because it was the only thing that could hurt my Comet, really. Because it had a side shot on it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to run it right in there, and I ran over. It automatically destroys the artillery piece because it's fully tracked and enclosed. So it's just gone once you hit it.
So how'd you lose the tank?
He had a light autocannon right next to it. So he just peeled around and just popped in the side 2 shots.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. But now I think you remember telling me, and you've got a lot of these points memorized better than I do. A medium machine gun team's about 60 points. So for 5 points more, you get an armored medium machine gun team.
Well, I mean, so a veteran MMG team would be 65 points. And
wow.
this is way better than a veteran MMG team because it can move and fire.
Sure.
It's a 7 instead of 5. And usually an MMG team gets hit by any kind of HE, it's going to go away.
Right.
That's where my light mortars really shine is picking off these little MMG teams and stuff.
Right.
Because you're going to kill 2 guys, and then morale check with pins, they're probably gone.
Right. Right. Okay.
I wish I had 10 of these. Matter of fact, I think I sent you a list that had 7 of these with 2 Stewards and a Comet.
I saw the list that said tank spam. I haven't opened it up yet, but oh my
god, the home guard. Everything else was home guard, but
oh lordy,
I mean, you don't need anything else other than 10 tanks. I mean, what else do you need?
How do you get away with 2 tank platoons?
Yeah, I have 2 platoons of infantry. 4, I think it was actually 5 squads of home guard.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that'd be the way to do it. That was like the guy in our tournament that ran. He had 5 tanks, 5 Shermans. He didn't do real well, but I don't think it was his list. I think it may have been his tactics, maybe.
Well, I think it was his list.
That's not a bad list.
Because they were inexperienced.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Okay.
With Americans, if you're going to do anything other than regular, I'd go veteran, so you get the gyro. But he wanted to have 5 tanks, and that was the only way he could do it. So that's I mean, he did pretty well. I think he went 2-1. But I think if he could have found a way to, if I'd have done it, I would have brought him regular, and maybe even if I had to bring in experienced infantry, I would have, because 5 tanks are just going to obliterate stuff. How do you deal with 5 9-armor tanks?
Right. I told him when I looked at the list, I said, you're either going to do real well or get crunched. So it's going to be a brittle list. You can't take a lot of casualties with
too many tanks. I don't think, maybe just looking at his games, I think maybe he lost 1 over 3 games.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then again, people, I think all of us need to take a step back and make sure we've got some reasonable anti-tank in our forces, because the big tanks are coming in, and you're going to need something big to deal with them, whether it's a Pack 40, whether it's even the Pack 36 can deal with a lot of these. That 5-centimeter gun's nothing to sneeze at. Make sure you got a tank that's got some good anti-tank capability, or an armored car that's got some good anti-tank capability to deal with potentially some of these bigger tanks, because they're going to be trouble. So very good. Yeah.
Now, in a way, I could actually see a way to play an inexperienced Sherman, because you just have to sit still.
Okay.
Because you're going to get that +1 for sitting still, so you're still going to be hitting on 4s.
Okay.
So
you basically you're doing fire and maneuver. You push 2 up, and if they hit, that's fine. You got the 3 back. They fire, hopefully, ideally do some damage, and then the 2 fire while the 3 move up. So I can see your point on that one. Well, Randy, again, I know you enjoyed the tournament. Didn't quite. You were close. It was. Looking at the scores run up, it was close.
So the second game really, that's where it all pivoted on.
Right.
So we had snow, so it limited visibility to 24 inches, and that really cost me the game because my forward observers could not bring down their bombardments on the enemy like I normally would. I had to try to lift them up.
Yeah.
And it was the other thing was so the snow. Let's see where we go.
So here's your first game, Airfield.
Yeah.
And yes, those are Stukas for anybody that's got sharp eyes. It's what we had. The story is this is some Legion Condor units that have been assigned over to the Far East to assist the Japanese.
Yeah.
Now you won this one pretty handily. This was the one where you obliterated the guy with the artillery.
No, I did pretty well with the artillery in this one, but really the Comet and the Gurkhas just kind of ran over this right flank because he had a Bren with 2 Piats in it, and I think the artillery bombardment might have hit that one and knocked it out, and they had to get out, and they never really threatened my tank at all. And then, of course, the Gurkhas just ran up to that little radio dish and started wreaking havoc. And then on the left flank, I had my 2 Vickers, and I just continually pushed up with them and started shooting. And you can see there's an objective right there on the left side by that bunker. And that was the push. I think I tried an assault on an infantry unit there. The turn before I did that, he had like 6 pins, so I was hoping I could get to him before he could rally him off. And then he would have had a hard time passing a morale check with that, but he did get out of the way. Unfortunately, the next turn, I got the first dice, and he was dead point blank with 6 shots coming from that tank, and it just hosed him down. No cover.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice knowing you. Wow.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done. And again, in the new version 3, we really prefer those little round objective markers. They've actually come out with a kit that has the round objective markers in them, but any bases will do. And I mean, if there's a good opportunity to really get creative, like you run a lot of British, Randy, you can make some some British themed objective markers, and when you capture an objective, you can put your British flag on there. That'd look kind of cool.
Yeah, I've seen people use flags before, and that's kind of cool. Unfortunately, it doesn't help the opponent when he captures it. So what I've been doing is I've got these little wood bases that you don't ever use for your minis. I forget where I think they come in. Like the vehicles when you get the little flame markers, they come with a bunch of little wooden bases to put the flame on.
Right.
So I just threw a bunch of these in my box, and I use them for objectives. And then I've got Othello chips. So whenever somebody claims an objective, I'll just place an Othello chip on top of it, either white or black, depending on who's got the.
Neat.
Yeah.
Cool beans. Like your shirt there.
Yeah.
That's from Warzone Atlanta.
Warzone, yeah. And what I really loved about the shirt, this is one of my favorite shirts, is it has the Atlanta Braves theme to it if you look at it.
Yep.
And I love the Atlanta Braves. Even when I lived in Florida, they were my team.
Good deal.
Yeah.
I love it. So, round 1, victory.
Yep.
Round 2, the infamous snow table. Oh, hang on.
Yeah.
The infamous snow tables. So had the special rule here, and I think it got everybody. Roll a 1 or 2, and you got snow, and visibility is 24 inches.
For the game. It wasn't like you had to roll for every round. I think I would have liked it better if it had been every round because we probably could have got some relief. But 24 inches. So the first thing off was we've had 7 objectives. And so it's an odd number of objectives, which he won the roll-off for placing objectives. So he was able to place his on the far side, that he picked that side. And he placed, of course, he placed the most of the objectives over there, and then he won the roll-off for side. So, advantage him, I have to go and get at least one of his objectives and keep mine. So that was tough. That was really tough. And on the left here, I had my Comet. And then if you look at the woods just past the ruined building, that's where his Panzer IV came up. Well, we both moved on, and we're more than 24 inches apart, so we can't shoot at each other. So I go on ambush, right? I'm like, okay, he's going to come out of those woods, right? Nah, he just sat there. And I think for a couple turns, we just sat there waiting on one of us to come out of the woods. And finally, I said, "Oh, the heck with this! I got to get something going." So I moved over into this hard cover and took a shot at him, and I missed. I had to have a 5, so I missed him. I think I rolled a 4, and then he got the dice and he hits, bounces off my front armor. I take a pin. I'm like, okay, whatever. And my company commander's over here by this fence in the LVT hiding. So I said, okay, got to take some more chances. So I took the LVT and pushed it over towards the Comet so I could get his morale bonus. And of course, that next turn, I passed, and I was able to take the shot, and I blew up his Panzer IV.
Nice.
So, yeah, and then I shot, the hull, like I say, is shooting at stuff. And then the one Vickers I pushed up around this house down the road, and that little half track that's there, he had a Pac 40 sitting on the road right there, and then he had the autocannon on the other side of it with pretty good lanes of fire. Yeah. And then my Gurkhas, before the LVT moved, they had gotten out and gotten to these woods in the middle. And so this was another successful assault. He had, I think it was 6 Panzer Grenadiers, veteran Panzer Grenadiers in a half track with assault rifles. And they got out. And I think they had shot one of the officers that tried to hold an objective. And so the Gurkhas got out, got point blank, shot at the Panzer Grenadiers. They were in the woods. And I think I might have killed one of them, which was really disappointing. I mean, I put a lot of shots on them and only got one guy.
Yeah.
And then, so, of course, I'm itching for the first dice the next turn, and I get it. I'm like, okay, it's Gurkha time. And so I thought, once again, I've got veteran tough fighters in defensive position. They get to swing first, but there's 5, so they only swing with 3. And I think they killed one, and I killed them. I got them. So that was a tough fight, veterans. Usually you don't call assault veterans, but the Gurkhas are just that good.
Wow.
Unfortunately, that was one of my objectives that I lost because he pushed up with a bunch of light armor. So I had swung around I actually took a light mortar and ran up and claimed an objective on the right. And at one point I had 3 objectives again, and there was one behind these 2 houses within 12 inches of the light mortar. And it all came down to rolling for turn 7. And so if we'd have gotten turn 7 4 up, I could have run over and got a 4th objective. He had nothing left over there because I had killed off all of his infantry on this right side of the table, with the exception of the armor. Since he'd already claimed that one objective, his armor was holding it, but I could have run around back there and got that one behind the buildings. And then I probably could have gotten this one on the left because the Comet was pushing up hard, and I had a couple pieces I had some paratroopers, and I think I had an anti-tank rifle team running up there. I could have cleared them out easily.
Nice.
And got that one. I would have had 4-2, or 4-3. So it literally came down to a coin flip, 1-3, I lose. 4-6, I probably win. But that's the way it goes.
Yeah. In many ways, the close games can be the worst. They're also the best,
Yeah.
You know, you did at the very least, you know, you did your best, and that's pretty cool. I hate it when I look back and I'm like, man, I made a complete tactical error there that cost me whatever. So that's really
Honestly,
good, Randy.
I think I probably did make at least one error here.
Right.
I probably should have outflanked, tried to get some of the objectives in his back line, and maybe put the observers in the LVT to begin with. Because I kind of held them back, but the fact that it was 24-inch visibility the whole game meant that I had to eventually start walking them up on their own to get them where they could put a bombardment in where it actually mattered.
Right. Whereas if you'd have drove them up in the LVT, you'd have got them up there quicker. You debust them turn 2, you're ready to start dropping rounds on somebody's forehead.
So I could have taken them out turn 1, and then turn 2 I could have called in the bombardment. But
right.
Anyway.
Right. Okay.
Oh, yeah. That was game 3. No.
My bad. I just pulled that. Hang on just a minute. That was darned inconvenient. There we go. Sorry about that, brother.
Nope. So this was game 3. Very interesting game. You have to control the most buildings. What we don't see here is we actually have more buildings in the grass than shown in this picture. This was kind of the middle stage of building this table.
Right.
So there was about 5 or 6 buildings to the left here that you don't see, and they all counted. And the church we counted as 2 buildings, the rectory and the main hall, just because the number of buildings were on one side of the table versus that side, so it kind of made things even.
Got it.
One of the things that helped me in this game was I won the roll off for sides, and of course I placed both of my observers in the church. No HE against the church. That was the rule. So I'm like, well, they're going to be pretty safe in the church. You know, if they shoot at them, they're in hard cover. The count is down. I mean, it's going to be hard to knock them out of there.
Right.
And the one observer in the tower. So one was in the main part of the church and one was in the tower. His visibility was huge. He could place a bombardment anywhere on the table.
Yep.
So that was great. I think the Avery. All right, so I can say this about the Avery. It's cool tank, but it sucks. Because
what sucks about it?
It is slow. So he came up on the right side, and it took him the whole game to get in between the hotel and that ruined factory.
How about that?
Yeah, and so he was pretty much out of the fight the whole game because my Comet was over here on the other side, dishing out all kinds of chaos to his infantry.
Bring the chaos.
And that's where the LVT was. So I brought the LVT up through the grass.
Jeez.
And the Gurkhas got out. They were lined up. Once again, I lined them along this hedge, and I poked one guy out in the dirt road there. And his commandos were behind this building here within 12 inches. Once again, I did another shot from something else to range him. And I think the LVT shot, and I knew how far away I was. And so I assaulted him, straight out. So you make your closest model to closest visible model. And if that path is an obstacle, it's a straight up fight. He had no cover, so we fought simultaneous on that one, and that was a bloodbath.
Yes. So you got Gurkha assaults in successfully in each of your games, then?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I had 3 in this one. I had at least 1 in the other 2 games.
Yeah.
So.
And I think John Ross was known for he was pushing up a lot of close combats too, especially with those colonial troops.
Yeah,
they're also pretty.
They had tough fighter. Those guys had tough fighter, didn't they?
Yep.
They were inexperienced, but they were tough fighter. And there was a bunch of them. I think there was like 20 or something.
Yeah.
So even though
I think I saw. Do what?
Yeah. So even though they were inexperienced, if you get 20 swings with tough fighters, you're going to kill a lot of guys.
Yes. Yeah. What's that? What's that? Who was it? Either Khrushchev or Stalin said, "Quantity has a quality all its own."
Yeah.
So
So,
wow. All right.
so as you can see here, because both my observers are in this church and have a beautiful view of the center of town, and the most buildings are in the center, that's where my opponent was. He was actually getting away from my Comet that was pushing up on the one side, so he was funneling him into the middle, and so I just started dropping bombardments in the middle of town, and that's
Jeez.
why he just got covered up. I mean, it was I collapsed 2 buildings in these bombardments.
No doubt.
Yeah,
No
I
doubt.
think I took out I think the hotel went down, and actually there was 3 because this little middle one. Little one went down, and then the gray one just to the left of it went down, and then the hotel went down.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was fun.
Wow. Yeah, I think one of the things as we continue to evolve our board rules, that hotel probably should have been worth 20 points damage instead of 10, or maybe collapse part of it, but not all of it. I know it makes a complication, but it's a big building. Um, but yeah, so good job. I want to say there may have been one other building that got dropped. I mean, what people don't think about is you start hitting these buildings with HE, even HE1, you're putting damage points on them, and it's cumulative in a hurry. You hit him with like a duel or a quad, you're probably going to bring that building down. So I mean, quad can put
Okay.
out 8 points. So 2 rounds of quad and the building's toast.
Well,
So
you
man,
don't track them,
it's
so it's only per hit. So you like if you do 8 points of damage one round, you don't carry that over to the next time it gets
oh, I
hit.
thought it was cumulative. I'll have to check that. I thought I read that it was cumulative. Okay.
It's
Well, that
not.
makes it a little bit more survivable, but still dropping 3 buildings, that's pretty nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
Those
So
one
this was
out
the
here.
game where it was like 2 rounds there where the bombardments all came in that he lost like 10 units in that span of
Wait.
time just through the bombardments. So it was
Jeez.
crushing. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the Comet had pushed up into town, and like I said, the Avery had gotten in between the hotel, and I think I took a shot at him, and I hit, but I rolled a 1 to damage on it because I was really
Wait.
itching to knock out the 10 armor tank with it.
Yeah.
And he shot back. He hit me, but it's only +4.
Okay.
So it's not doing much. It put a couple
Well, it's a
pins.
he's got that spigot mortar, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that
and
thing's
that
better.
hurts it too. So that really hurts it because he can't fire over 36 inches. So
Okay.
if I wanted to, I could just stay out of range of him and just keep shooting at him.
Sure.
I could just
But
bag
on the
up.
other hand, he could have done with the spigot mortar what you were doing with your artillery, and that is drop buildings on your head.
Yeah, so I never went in the building. other than the church, that's the only place my guys were in.
Okay.
Although I did have light mortars in the ruins over on my side, those 2 little ruined houses right there,
Yep. Right.
because that's ruins, so you can't. And that's perfect place for light mortars is in ruins because it's hard
Yes.
cover, plenty of visibility, and they were. I think he had a Piat team in one of these buildings, and I hit it with the mortar. The first time I hit it, it went off on the wrong floor, but then the second time it went to the right floor, and I'd already ranged in, and it took that one out.
So what do you mean it went off on the wrong floor? Walk us through that.
So I hit the building, and he was on the bottom floor, I believe.
Right.
And so let's see, what was the deal with that?
What do you got to roll to penetrate with a light mortar?
No, it was not. It was his forward artillery observer.
Right.
It was not his Piat teams were out on the ground on foot.
Okay.
He had his forward artillery observer in the top floor. So I hit the building, and so I rolled that the mortar went down to the first floor, and so it missed the or observer. But I was ranged in, so the next time I shot, it actually went off on the top floor, and it's indirect fire. It gets 2 guys, or it was D3 hits, and I think I rolled 2 hits, and the observer went away. He only got 1 of his bombardments in. He was British, but he only got to call 1 in because I killed him before he could get the second one.
And battery fire.
He had placed it right there in between those 2 ruins, and I think it got delayed, thankfully. So I went away from it, and then it went off and did nothing.
Wow. Okay.
The only thing that I didn't move was my light mortars, and I think when it finally did go off, I just went down, because even if you get hit, you're only killing 1 guy. Because it's only 2-man team, and then the officers nearby, so they're going to pass the morale check. That's the beauty of it. You know, you can hit them with the hardest thing on the, in the game, and it only kills 1 guy if you can go down with it.
Right. Man, pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right then. So lesson for your next tournament.
I think I had 26 kills over 3 rounds.
Right.
Which is a ton.
Yes.
In a non-Gurkha era, I think the most I've ever killed with a whole army of Gurkhas was 30. I killed 30 dice at the Moxie tournament a while back. Yeah, it was a bloodbath. I tabled 2 opponents.
Dang.
Yeah.
Did you win? Did you win that one?
Yeah.
Cool beans. Okay. I know you do well in tournaments. That's I've got a lot of respect for your tournament play abilities. That's really good. Lucky to have you. And for those of you that don't know, Randy's actually the DO for our tournament too, and we're grateful to have him. So takeaways for your next game, for your next tournament. What you thinking?
So the next one coming up is Recon, and of course it's 18 order dice cap, which is the main reason I built an 18 order dice list. Trying to figure out if I can squeeze in more Gurkhas. I don't know. 2 squads. I brought 1 because I knew that there would be places that I could do an assault with them and really get some kill points. And that's what it comes down to winning tournaments is killing units, because in the end of the day, more than 1 person's probably going to finish 3-0. And if you don't have 20 mid-20s in kills, you're not going to win. You're going to come in second.
Excellent. Good thing to keep in mind. So we were talking. So what we're seeing, I mean, early on with version 3, a couple of tournaments we saw no dice cap or big dice cap, and what we're starting to see now is like an 18 dice cap to kind of get ahead of some of the spam, mortar spam, rocket spam, whatever. What do you think about the 18-point cap versus say a 20 or a 24?
Well, I think it hurts some armies, honestly. I'm thinking 20 is probably the smallest amount of a dice cap you should have. I would even be okay with 24.
Right.
And because I don't think that many people will bring that many dice. There'll be a few. And they're going to suffer. Honestly, they're going to have some weak units that if they get in a kill point mission, they're going to have to really work hard to keep from losing that game. So
if you got a 2 or 3 man unit, that's a die, and that's just as much of a die as a 10-man unit.
Yeah, so if I'm playing Seek and Destroy against somebody with 24 dice, I'm just gonna go target their little 2-man, 1-man units and just rack up kills.
Right.
I'm not even gonna worry about that. If they got a big ass tank, I'm not gonna worry about it because I'm just gonna go after the little ones and rack up kills.
Okay.
But
that's pretty cool.
So I did a little bit of research today. I was actually looking to see where some tournaments are throughout the year in the United States that I haven't been to before. And I kept seeing 18 order dice. And there was a couple tournaments that were at like 1,000, 1,100 that had 16 order dice cap, which is kind of in the same 1250, 18. But like Adepticon, I don't think in the past they had a dice cap, but now they have an 18 order dice cap. I think NashCon does. I don't think the Skibicki's tournaments have any kind of restrictions. They're probably one of the few that just let you bring whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think there was a lot of commentary at the Siege of Augusta tournament that a lot of games didn't finish. And
Yeah.
that was we went to 3 hours on our tournament. But I want to say most of the folks were done probably in 2 3/4. So I'm going to have to evaluate that for our next tournament. I'm thinking about going back to 2.5.
Yeah, I think we're fine.
Yeah.
And
if
honestly,
I do that, I may bring the points down.
The Skibicki's will probably listen to some of that feedback that they've probably gotten. And I might expect that their next tournament might show a dice cap of,
Yeah.
So it's kind of looking like maybe everybody's kind of melting into that 18 order dice.
At least for the moment. Right.
Yeah.
The new format of 1250 points is a lot. I mean, the Gentleman's War starter set has 2 500-point armies in it. So, your 1250 is almost 2.5 times that.
So I could see happening in the future, and it may take a year or so for this to happen, but 1,000 points and 20 order dice would be the standard.
Okay. Well, the standard used to be 1,000.
Yeah.
It was for a long time. And then when the new rules came out, Warlord kind of pushed it up to 1250.
Yeah.
And there's reasons for that.
The reasons were they wanted to see big tanks on the table. They wanted to sell those big tank models.
Yep. Once your big tanks. And that's the other thing, I sometimes, I've ratcheted down command dice pools before, and I'll get feedback of, well, my Uber Horde army doesn't benefit from that. Well, yes and no. Then you need to take a step back and say, okay, do I want to try and bring my Uber Horde, or is this a good opportunity for me to upgrade some of those troops to higher quality and maybe bring 1 or 2 of those bigger tanks that I normally would leave on the shelf because I'm looking for order dice. So it's whichever way you break on that, it's a trade-off.
I've heard that argument, and so the guys that the horde armies that they say Japanese and Russians, so they can still bring these little dog mines and stuff that they want, but balance it out with a T-36. They bring one thing that's big, and then bring all these little things that they want to bring, and they'll still have their dice within the dice cap. They just won't be bringing, the T-26s, the little light tanks. They won't be able to bring a bunch of them. A bunch of Katyushas. They won't have 3 Katyushas and 10 dog mines. I
hear you.
Honestly, like my list, 18 order dice. Okay, I've got a Comet, and nothing in the army's weak other than the light mortars. And if you play them right, everything's fine. I mean, it's an MSU unit. I had 2 anti-tank rifles. I had 3 light mortars, a bunch of inexperienced officers, but I balance it out with a big tank and some, veteran infantry squads, and it works out.
Yeah. God help you if those officers get exposed. They're easy meat. So very cool. All right. So, if you got comments about dice and meta, guys, put it in the comments below. Our channel's here for you, and we love a good discussion. I'm like I said, we're leaning toward our next tournament, probably dialing back more toward that 2.5 hours. We may push that dice cap down a little bit. We may push the points down. We'll see. Like I say, most of the people finished well before the 3 hours. I didn't know it exactly, but I know, I want to say probably 30 minutes at least. We had at least 30 minutes of overall downtime, other than the two games that just ran all 3 hours. So that'll be one of those things we'll evaluate as TOs for our June tournament, and that tournament's going to be June 28th, again at a live church, 18 spots. It's going to be fun. 18. That's the most we said we can have, and so it's going to be a good time. And then Armies of the United States will be out by then. So if you're keeping up with the releases, there's new things coming out. LBT's getting some love. The US is getting some dog handlers, and they're useful for submissions. So there's a few things coming out that's going to make the US book useful. So by the time we get to that tournament, you'll have the Armies of Germany and the Armies of the United States in play, along with new units. So absolutely going to be interesting. If you like what we're doing, give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a share, tell your friends about us. We try and have teach people about bolt action as well as about the larger hobby. And Randy, what else you got for the folks before we wrap up tonight?
Yeah, so those I think the dog handlers were more useful in version 2, simply because they represented a cheap dice you could put in the bag.
Right.
But they might still be useful. If you weren't playing in an 18 order dice limit tournament, then I could see bringing them, because they are veteran. And that's 15 points a man for a veteran, but they're also tough fighters. I don't know if you really want to go into close combat with them, but if you wanted to assault another headquarters unit, that would be a perfect opportunity right there.
Yeah.
Plus, they allow you to spot hidden units at like 6, or I forget how far away it is, but it's a lot closer than you normally could spot hidden units.
Dog noses for the win.
Yeah. So I like the fact that they're going to bring out an actual model of the M15, the one that we just haven't been able to get. I had to custom build mine. I mean, I kit bashed mine.
Right.
And now Warlord's actually going to come out with a model for a unit they've had for forever.
And one that's been popular. I mean, was it in our tournament that a guy had 3 M15s?
So that was David Searcamp. He had 3 of those things, and he did pretty well with them.
Yeah, he did. He really did.
The first time I was playing, I had a Hellcat and an M15 in my army, and I had Rangers, and it did really well. I think that was first year at Warzone. I think I almost won that. I was 3-0 the first day, and me and Ryan David had a very close game on game 4. And I think I ended up winning the 5th game, but I think he went 5-0 after that point. But I mean, it was good. I liked it.
Awesome.
And it's better now. It's way better now in version 3 than it was in version 2.
How so?
Oh, because of the range. The heavy machine guns bumped out to 48 inches.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So I wouldn't rule out bringing an American army with. I've got an M16, which is 4 heavy machine guns, and I've got an M15.
Yeah.
And that would be nasty. Throw that in with the Hellcat, and so you got all the anti-tank you need.
Yep.
Honestly, the heavy machine guns, I've seen an M16 take out a Panzer IV, or is it a Panzer III? I think it was a Panzer III. Got in on its side and just point blank blasted it. And so you're talking about +2 because you get that extra penetration, and then it's side armor. So it's 7 on the side, and you got 2 going in, and then you're getting 12 shots into it.
And you're going to roll pen. You're going to roll pen for each shot that hits.
Yeah. So you're point blank, you're hitting on 2s. So if you hit, 12 shots, and you're probably going to hit 7, 8 times.
Sure.
So you're going to be penetrating. You're bound to roll that 5 or 6 that you need to knock it out.
Wow.
So, and it gets no cover if you're in that kind of situation.
Right, man. Okay, you're a dangerous man. Just saying.
I love my toys.
Yeah, and then folks are listening to this, and we're making people more dangerous. A good deal. More
Yeah.
carnage, yes. More DACA. Gotta love it. All right. Well, I think on that note, more DACA, and the new stuff that's going to be dropping with the armies of the United States. Keep watching the Gator Games feed. We're going to have stuff as stuff drops. And I know Randy and I'm sure we'll do a preview of the Armies of the United States book as soon as we can put our hands on one. I'll be watching for that, and then it's going to have more kits too, so that's pretty cool. As we always say, thanks for watching. Best way to support the channel is buy merchandise from GatorGamesandBooks.com. As you can tell, recording's thirsty business. Can't quite see my cup. There it is. You can buy us coffee at Patreon. For more, there we go. There we go. Randy has never
I'm
had a
really
nice shirt.
thirsty.
He packs that stuff everywhere.
Yep.
But yeah, so you can support us on Patreon, $5 a month. Support us on Ko-Fi at $5 a month, and we're working on maybe some special. If we get subscribers where it's worthwhile, we can run some special deals through there that just our subscribers will get. Also, Randy's got his channel, Bolt Action 1944, where he does his own things. He has guests as well. He does some really good work over there, so be sure you like and subscribe that as well. And we do a lot of partnerships there. So thank you guys for your time.
Hey, Mike.
Thanks for taking time. Yeah, what you got, Randy?
So I just had a thought because we were on here an hour and 20 minutes. It was a pretty good session. Right. We ought to do a live session sometime and get people on to ask live questions that we could, maybe answer Q&A.
So if you'd be interested in that, guys, drop that down in the comments below. We would certainly entertain that. I've got the technology to do it, so I could flip us over to live via StreamYard. And we could even go live, Randy, on I think I'm hooked into both Instagram and Facebook, so we could go live on both platforms as well as YouTube, and or you maybe YouTube and Facebook, so we could go live on both and just kind of take questions. I love that idea. Very good. All right. Any other surprise questions, or are we good?
No, I think we're done.
All right. Very good. You know what a pop quiz is, right? That's a quiz for which neither the teacher nor the students are prepared. So there you go. But hey, guys, thanks for your time. Like, subscribe, share, check out the goods, give us your thoughts in the section below, and we will see y'all next week. Bye-bye.
See you later.